I never imagined that the happiest day of welcoming a new baby into our family would turn into the moment that exposed the biggest betrayal of my life. As the hospital lawyer opened the final legal envelope, my daughter-in-law Vanessa looked confident, almost smug, like she had already won. She had spent months telling me I was lucky to be trusted as the emergency contact for her surrogate, making it sound like an emotional honor. What she never expected was that the surrogate had already come to me in secret. The first sentence in that document changed everything. It did not put $500,000 of IVF debt on my shoulders like Vanessa had planned. Instead, it declared me and my son Daniel as the child's legal guardians with full parental and financial rights. The entire room fell silent. Vanessa's smile dropped as if the air had been pulled out of her chest, and I realized right then that she never wanted a child. She wanted control, but today she lost it. My name is Linda Hayes. I am 57 years old, and after losing my husband to a heart attack last year, I thought the hardest chapter of my life had already passed. My son Daniel is my only child, and after his father's death, he became my source of strength. When he married Vanessa 3 years ago, I genuinely tried to welcome her with open arms. She was polished, always dressed like she was walking into a photo shoot, and spoke with the confidence of someone who never questioned themselves. At first, I admired her, but as time went on, I realized she admired no one but herself. Daniel and Vanessa struggled to have a child. Their attempts at IVF had failed multiple times, and Vanessa often blamed everyone around her for her misfortune. She once told me, "People like us do not accept failure. This baby will be the proof that I earned my place in Daniel's life." I remember feeling uneasy because motherhood should be about love, not proof. Months later, Vanessa arranged a meeting with me. She served tea in expensive cups and spoke in a soft voice that I had never heard before. "Linda," she said, placing her hand over mine, "I want you to be the emergency contact for our surrogate. It would mean the world to me. It makes you officially part of this process, not just as a grandmother, but as the person we trust the most." Her words touched me. In that moment, I believed she was finally opening her heart. I signed the papers without hesitation, not realizing I had just placed my name on documents that made me legally and financially responsible for everything that could go wrong. Vanessa never mentioned the $500,000 in medical loans tied to the procedure. She never mentioned that the surrogate had no financial responsibility, and neither did she. Every signature traced back to me. Weeks passed before I received a letter marked urgent. It was a notice of financial accountability. I held it in my shaking hands as I read the numbers. That made my heart pound. Daniel walked in just as my knees weakened. When he saw the paper, his face tightened with confusion and then anger. "Mom, why is your name on these loans?" Vanessa told me her father's trust was paying for everything. It was the first time I saw the truth behind Vanessa's perfect smile. She had not honored me. She had trapped me, and that was only the beginning. If you are a parent or ever had someone try to take advantage of your trust, you need to hear what happened next. Subscribe now and comment where you are watching from, because this story is not just mine. This could happen to anyone. The morning after Daniel discovered the letter, our home no longer felt peaceful. It felt like a storm had moved in and was refusing to leave. I woke up with a pounding in my chest, a sense of urgency telling me that everything I believed about my daughter-in-law was about to fall apart. Daniel had already gone to work, but he left me a message. "Do not sign anything else. I am going to talk to Vanessa tonight." I wished I could believe that a conversation would fix this, but a deeper instinct told me the truth. Vanessa would never admit to wrongdoing. She would twist it into something that made her the victim and me, the unreasonable one. Later that afternoon, Marissa, the surrogate, called me. Her voice was gentle, but there was something urgent behind it. "Mrs. Hayes, I don't know if you're aware, but Vanessa told me that you're the legal guardian for all medical and financial matters. She told me your family is wealthy, That you agreed to take full responsibility if the treatment failed or if anything happened to the baby. My heart tightened. She told me I was the emergency contact, I replied. Nothing about loans. Nothing about being responsible for the cost of treatment. There was a pause. Then Marissa spoke carefully, as if choosing every word mattered. She lied to you. She also lied to me. That's why I need to tell you something before it's too late. Marissa asked to meet in person. I drove to a modest coffee shop near the hospital. When I walked in, I saw her sitting near the window, hands wrapped around a mug, as if she needed the warmth to stay grounded. She was nothing like the image Vanessa had described. A paid helper, a silent participant with no opinion. Marissa was clearly a person of empathy and conscience. Mrs. Hayes, she began, I need you to know what Vanessa is doing to you is not an accident. She planned it. She said you were an easy target because you want to be part of your grandchild's life. She said if she made you feel important, you would sign anything. I sat completely still, unable to look away from her. Every word was like a thread being pulled out of the fabric of my reality. Marissa pulled a binder from her bag. This is the medical and financial agreement. Your name is listed as the primary guarantor for all expenses, not Vanessa, not Daniel, you. I took the documents in my hands and read through pages filled with terms I did not fully understand. Liability, default clauses, repossession of assets. It was not just a bill, it was a legal trap. If anything went wrong with the pregnancy, the baby, or the medical procedure, I would be responsible for repaying everything, plus interest. Tears stung my eyes, not from sadness, but from shock and betrayal. Marissa lowered her voice. She also plans to divorce Daniel after the baby is born. She told her sister she is entitled to half of everything because Daniel has no prenup. The IVF debt would be yours. The child would be hers, and the money would be hers too. I looked up. How do you know this? Because she said it in front of me, Marissa said. She talks like I'm furniture. She forgets I'm a human being with ears and a conscience. I felt a wave of disbelief. Vanessa, the woman who gave speeches at charity events, who posted inspirational quotes about motherhood online, was plotting not to build a family, but to secure financial power. When I left the coffee shop, I did not feel weak or defeated. I felt awake. For the first time, I understood that this was not just about money. This was about manipulation at the deepest level. A woman I invited into my life, trusted with my son's happiness, was planning to destroy our family for her own gain. That evening, Daniel and I sat at the kitchen table. I showed him everything Marissa had given me. He was silent for a long time. Then his voice lowered. She is not going to win, he said. We trusted her because we are honest. She thinks that makes us weak. She is wrong. Daniel called Vanessa into the room. She walked in confidently, arms folded, smiling as if nothing was wrong. When Daniel asked her about the loans, she didn't deny it. Instead, she smirked. You're overreacting. Families share responsibilities. Your mother should be honored to support our future child. Besides, she signed it willingly. I stood up. You manipulated me, she shrugged. You wanted to be included. Don't act like a victim now. That was the moment I realized Vanessa did not see me as family. She saw me as a financial asset to be used. And I knew right then I was going to fight back, not just for myself, but for my son and the innocent child who was being used as leverage. The conflict had begun, and there was no turning back. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. It was as if something inside me had finally stepped forward, a part of me that had stayed silent for too long. I was done being cornered. I was done being polite in the face of manipulation. Vanessa had counted on me being too emotional, too shocked, or too embarrassed to act. She thought I would beg, hide, or silently accept her plan. Instead, I chose to fight back with strategy and truth. Daniel called me from his office just before noon. Mom, he said, I found something. Vanessa never requested a financial release form for me. My name is not tied to those loans. She made sure that if anything went wrong, it would fall entirely on you. I closed my eyes tightly. I had been raised to believe family was about loyalty and sacrifice. But what Vanessa was doing wasn't family, it was fraud. That afternoon, I received another call, this time from Marissa, the surrogate. Her voice was steady, but I could tell she had been waiting for this moment. "I'm ready to tell you everything," she said, "but I need to meet with you and Daniel together. It's bigger than the loans. It's about the baby's legal rights." Daniel and I drove to the attorney Marissa had been consulting, a man named Edward Lawson. His office was simple, lined with certificates and family photos. When we sat down, Marissa placed a stack of documents on the desk. "This," she said, "is the original contract Vanessa made us sign. She said I would only receive payment if I waived all parental rights and assigned legal guardianship of the unborn child to Linda Hayes. If anything happened, she claimed it was a safety measure in case Daniel was traveling for work." Daniel turned to me, stunned. "She planned to exclude me too," Marissa nodded. "But when I saw how she treated you and how she talked about using your money, I went to this attorney. I asked if there was a way to protect you and your son from her plan. He told me there was." Attorney Lawson slid a second stack of documents toward me. "This," he said, "is the amendment. It's fully legal, signed by Marissa as the gestational carrier, and it transfers all parental and financial rights to you and Daniel in case of dispute. Vanessa is named as a voluntary relinquishing party on this form." Daniel's eyes widened. "Relinquishing? You mean she signed away her rights?" Lawson nodded. "She signed it because she assumed she would be the one controlling the financial outcome. She never expected this to be used against her. Legally, Marissa's signature is final. Linda, you are protected. Daniel, you are protected. Vanessa has no claim." I felt my breath release in a long exhale I had been holding for months. "But what about the loans?" I asked. "That's where the real twist comes in," Lawson said. "Because she entered into a financial agreement with fraudulent intent, misrepresenting you as a willing party, you have grounds for legal dismissal of liability. Not only that, but she could face consequences for attempted financial coercion." Marissa leaned forward then, her eyes sincere. "Mrs. Hayes, you showed me kindness. You spoke to me like a person, not a transaction. I couldn't let her do this to you. If you agree, I will testify." Daniel reached over and squeezed my hand. "Mom, this is our moment. We can stop her before she destroys everything." I nodded, not out of anger, but with a steady resolve. This was no longer about Vanessa winning or losing. It was about protecting the future of a child who had done nothing wrong. It was about protecting my son, who had married a woman he believed loved him. It was about reclaiming my strength and refusing to be made into a victim. That evening, we returned home with a new sense of purpose. Vanessa was in the living room scrolling on her phone when we walked in. She barely glanced up until Daniel spoke. "Vanessa," he said, his voice calm, "we know everything. The loans, the legal guardianship, the divorce plan. It's over." Vanessa scoffed. "You can't prove anything. I am your wife. I have rights." I stepped forward and placed the amended contract on the coffee table. "You signed those rights away when you put money before family." For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. She stared at the papers as if they were a burning flame, edging closer every second. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply said, "We will be present at the hospital when the baby is delivered, and the truth will be presented in full. There is nothing you can do to stop that now." Vanessa's voice cracked. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said. "The mistake was thinking love was a weakness." That night, I didn't fall asleep in fear. I fell asleep in peace. The turning point had come, and for once, the power was not in the hands of the one who tried to manipulate. It was in truth, in unity, and in the unexpected ally who had stepped forward to stand with us. And what was coming next would not just expose everything, it would redefine what family truly is. The day of the birth arrived, with a tension so thick, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. The hospital was quiet, but every footstep echoed through the hallway, as if announcing that something irreversible was about to happen. I walked beside Daniel, clutching my purse, not because I needed anything inside it, but because I needed to feel anchored to something solid. My heart was steady, but my mind raced through every possible reaction Vanessa might have when the truth came to light. Vanessa was already in the waiting room, wearing a cream-colored designer coat with a silk scarf, as if she were arriving for a magazine photo shoot rather than the birth of a child. Her face lit up when she saw Daniel, but when her eyes met mine, the brightness dimmed. For a moment, I saw something flicker: fear, calculation, then defiance. "Linda," she said, forcing a smile, "remember, this is our special moment, our family's beginning. Please don't bring any negativity into this day." Daniel sat down opposite her. "We're not here for drama. We're here for the truth." Before she could respond, a nurse approached. "The surrogate is ready. She asked for Mrs. Hayes to join her first." Vanessa stiffened. "There must be some mistake. I am the mother. I should be first." The nurse checked her. Clipboard. According to the legal file provided by the surrogate's attorney, the primary guardian listed is Linda Hayes. The room went dead silent. Vanessa's face froze. Lips parted as if she had forgotten how to breathe. I stood and followed the nurse, my hands trembling slightly. When I entered the delivery room, Marissa lay in the hospital bed, exhausted but smiling softly. "I wanted you to be the first to hold the baby," she whispered. "This child deserves to be placed in the arms of someone who will protect them, not use them." Tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming honor of what she had just said. I took Marissa's hand. "Thank you for your strength. I promise you, this child will be loved." Moments later, the doctor announced it was time. The birth was emotional, raw, and beautiful. When the baby's first cry filled the room, it felt like a sound that washed all the poison away. I held her, tiny, warm, her breathing soft against my chest. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about contracts or money or betrayal. I was thinking about life, about the miracle of innocence. I whispered, "Welcome to the world, little one. You are safe now." Then the hospital door swung open. Vanessa stormed in with 2 attorneys behind her. Her eyes fell on the baby in my arms, and she moved forward, reaching out as if she had every right. "Give me my daughter," she demanded, voice shaking. Before she could touch the baby, Attorney Lawson stepped forward. He wasn't just representing Marissa anymore. He was representing me and Daniel. "Vanessa Hayes," he said clearly, "by the authority of the pre-filed parental designation agreement, you relinquished all legal and financial rights to this child. Any attempt to claim custody will be treated as a violation of a binding contract." Vanessa turned to Daniel, desperate now. "Tell him to stop. Tell your mother to give me my baby." Daniel didn't move. His voice was calm, but firm. "You tried to destroy my mother. You didn't want this baby for love. You wanted her for leverage." Vanessa's face crumbled. "That's not true. I am the birth mother." Marissa spoke from the bed, gathering her strength. "No, you're not. I am the birth mother. You are not biologically related to this child. You filed intent to take custody through contract, but that contract also stated that you relinquished responsibility to Linda in case of legal conflict, which you created when you attempted to assign fraudulent debt." The lead hospital administrator entered as witnesses. The legal file was reviewed this morning. The court has recognized Linda Hayes and Daniel Hayes as the sole intended guardians. Any objections must be pursued through civil court, not here. Vanessa stepped back as if she had been struck. "This is a trick. You can't do this to me. I am his wife." Daniel stood up, not for much longer. At that moment, the final envelope was opened in front of everyone. The first line read clearly, "All parental and financial responsibilities, guardianship rights, and medical decision powers are granted to Linda Hayes and Daniel Hayes, effective immediately upon the birth of the child." Vanessa screamed, a raw sound of disbelief and fury. But the battle she thought she controlled was already lost. Her attorneys lowered their gaze. They knew the law had spoken. As I held the baby, I felt no triumph over Vanessa, only a deep sense of protection. This was never about winning. This was about saving a child from being born into a game of greed. Vanessa sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face, not of remorse, but of shock that the power she had built her identity around was gone. The baby stirred in my arms, and I knew this moment was not just the climax of a legal battle, but the rebirth of my own purpose. In that hospital room, surrounded by silence and truth, one chapter ended and a new one began, with love, not manipulation, at its center. The silence in the hospital room felt almost sacred after the confrontation ended. Nurses moved quietly. The beeping of monitors filled the stillness, and I sat in a rocking chair, holding the child who had become the center of a storm I never saw coming. This tiny life, only minutes old, had already changed everything. She didn't know about contracts, debts, or betrayal. All she felt was warmth, safety, and love. And in that moment, I understood something with crystal clarity. Some battles are not fought to win. They are fought to protect what is worth more than anything money could ever buy. Daniel sat beside me, his eyes soft as he watched his daughter sleep in my arm. "Mom," he said quietly, "everything she tried to do, it didn't break us. It brought us closer." His words settled over me like a healing balm. I had spent months believing I was alone, walking a path of manipulation and deceit in silence. But the truth was, I had never been alone. Love had been with me all along, just not from the person I expected. Vanessa, meanwhile, had been escorted out of the maternity ward by hospital staff and her own attorneys. She didn't look back, not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't accept she had lost. For someone who had built her entire identity on image and power, the moment she lost control, she lost herself. There was no scene, no apology, no sudden change of heart. She chose silence and pride over reflection and remorse. Marissa was moved to a recovery room, and Daniel and I went to see her. She looked exhausted but peaceful, her eyes lighting up when she saw the baby in my arms. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Can I hold her?" I placed the baby gently in her arms. Marissa looked at her with a mother's tenderness, yet with no sense of possession. "You will give her what I wish I could have had growing up," she said. "A home built on truth." I rested my hand on Marissa's. "You didn't just carry this child. You saved her." Marissa's eyes filled with tears. "No, Mrs. Hayes. You saved her by refusing to be silent." Later that night, Daniel and I brought the baby home. I walked into the nursery Daniel had quietly prepared weeks earlier, back when everything seemed uncertain. The soft pink blanket, the mobile of silver stars, the rocking chair in the corner, it all felt like a promise. Daniel placed the baby in her crib and stood there for a long moment before turning to me. "I'm filing for divorce," he said calmly. There was no anger in his tone, just peace. "I married a woman who valued power over people, money over family. This child deserves better. You deserve better." I nodded. It was the right decision. Some endings are not tragic. They are the beginning of healing. In the weeks that followed, the community learned the truth. Not because I told them, but because Vanessa's financial fraud came under legal investigation. People who once envied her life were stunned to learn how much of it was built on lies. She tried to play the victim publicly, but legal evidence spoke louder than her words. She had forged financial intent. She had misused legal documents. She had attempted to entrap her mother-in-law in debt for personal gain. The courts did not show sympathy, but our home was filled not with bitterness, but with new beginnings. I spent my mornings rocking my granddaughter by the window, sunlight warming her tiny hands. Daniel cooked breakfast and read parenting books like his life depended on it. We weren't a broken family. We were a rebuilding one, and there was dignity in that. One evening, as I watched my granddaughter sleep, I thought of everything we had been through. Betrayal had walked into our home disguised as family, but truth stood up and sent it out. I didn't gain a child through biology, but through purpose. I didn't lose my life to debt. I reclaimed my life through courage. The greatest lie Vanessa ever told was that family is something you use. The greatest truth I learned is that family is something you protect, even if you must fight the very person who claims to be part of it. My journey was not about revenge. It was about protection, justice, and love. And as I kissed my granddaughter's forehead, I knew one thing for certain. This child will grow up knowing that her life began not with deception, but with strength. This was not the ending Vanessa expected, but it was the ending our family needed. If you believe in standing up for what is right, protecting your family, and never letting someone use your kindness as a weakness, Make sure to subscribe to my channel and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us share more powerful true stories that can change lives.